Time now for part 3 of Dream Car Championship. And where, up to this point, if I can manage to get past this race, then there's a good possibility that says I will likely get the sweep. So we're pretty much into the third and final part of the Dream Car Championship. And since we're basically sprint racing again, I will switch back to the slick tyres and also adjust the gears back to their default settings. And now, let's get on with part 3, and where hopefully this time around I can manage to achieve the sweep without spinning myself out again, like I did before. This is going to be a dogfight between myself and the Zonda. I am simply going to tell you that now. Except for saying this time around, I am going to make absolutely sure that I keep this car on track for pretty much the entire distance. Also, if you like what I do around here, and if you're still paying attention at this point of the video, then you might want to consider liking and subscribing, since I am wanting to reach 750 subs before the end of September. Maybe sooner if possible, but if you like what I do around here and you want to see more from me, then, well, liking and subscribing is always there for you. As I said before, trying to reach 750 subs before the end of September, maybe sooner, if possible. And then it means I will have actually given myself the sort of pat on the back that tells me that I have done well enough to really start breaking into the ranks of the YouTube community officially. And it might also help me to reach my year-end target of 800 subs by the end of the year if possible. Something that might also be reachable, since only last year I managed to get over 600 subs by year's end. So hopefully, if it's possible, we can manage to possibly get beyond 800 subs before year's end, hopefully. But anyway, pretty much going foot to the floor down the long Mulsanne Straight. There aren't many racing games these days where you can actually still do that, and I am in the draft. And just stepping on the brakes before I slam into him. Obviously I don't want to do that. And it looks like at this point we are very much going to be in a dogfight for this one. And up the inside, pushes me onto the curb, but thankfully there was nothing more than that. And step on the brakes, don't want to hit the gravel the way I did before, as we go through Indianapolis. And now heading up the straightaway into Arnage. And in spite of all the bumps, I have now taken the lead. However, I reckon the Pagani is going to be just behind me when we really get down to it. So just gotta hold on to the lead here, and then I should be fine. As I would have guessed, the Pagani was slightly better through the Porsche curbs than me, but I still managed to hold on to the lead. And just holding on to the car before I hit the grass. And the gap is only 0.6. You could honestly argue this is probably similar to watching a battle between Jared Goff and Matthew Stafford. And not only because the two of them ironically switched teams, but also because, well, the two of them ironically switched teams and have ironically already given us some truly classic games. The way in which both of them, I think, have just played superbly well whenever you see the Los Angeles Rams against the Detroit Lions. I honestly would argue that both of them are definitely among the best teams in the league. I mean, their recent battles have definitely showcased that it is easily one of those must-see battles. And it honestly wouldn't surprise me if the next time we do actually see Jared Goff against Matthew Stafford, the two of them ironically create what will probably be another thrilling game the way that they have done so far. And I hit 206 just as I get to the end of the Mulsanne, and it is here where I have simply outpaced the Zonda, and the gap is 2.6 seconds. I really cannot afford to touch the gravel at this point. I really need to make sure I keep my car on track. Through here on the brakes nice and early, and now heading through Indianapolis for the second and last time. And a little bit too deep there through Arnage, but I did manage to get through there okay. And it looks as though the Zonda is closing in again. So this probably is going to be a dogfight the way I see things, because we're pretty close to one another in terms of just raw speed. And he is right on my ass again, so I really have got to stay on track for the rest of this. And I really have to hold him off, because this place can get pretty crazy at times. And he's lifted off the exit there as we now head through the Ford chicanes for the second and last time. And I managed to win the battle by 1.7 seconds. And no one else is going to make it to the line. Okay. So there we go. 8 for 8 with the Ford GT, and it seems as though at this point, like, pretty much nearly all positions at this point have pretty much been resolved. But now we must head to El Capitan for the penultimate fixture of the Dream Car Championship, and where I'm only 30 grand away from hitting 2 million. Partly helped out, of course, by me doing the whole easy Capri rally quick money trick, if you will. If you follow me. Whatever. Time now for race 9 of the Dream Car Championship. 4 laps of El Capitan Reverse. Just having a sip of water. Gotta stay hydrated, especially during the summer heat. Now, let's begin the penultimate fixture of the Dream Car Championship. As the Honda gets a bad launch, and a little bit wide there, but just able to hold onto it long enough. And because it's a grid start, I'm not having to overcome any big gaps this time around to the leader. So the only thing I really have to worry about is making sure that I pass him, as he hits the styrofoam on the bridge and I have hit the sand. Yeah, I'm just gonna let him do that outside pass, because I really did not like the way my car jumped in that sand trap. It's always wise to know when you have to back out, and that was the case with me. Oh shit, okay. It's alright, it's fine. We're still in this. We have not spun ourselves out yet. Also, I would honestly argue that when it comes to putting Jared Goff against Matthew Stafford, aside from the matchup that you get between Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen, I would honestly say the Goff-Stafford rivalry definitely has to be, I think, one of the premier rivalries of the NFC side of the NFL. I think it probably is one battle that should get more attention than what it actually does. Because I have got to say, from the matchups that I've seen so far, between the Goff-led Lions and the Stafford-led Rams, I would definitely argue that the rivalry should be up for consideration. At least if you're wanting to talk about one of the most competitive matchups that I think the NFC probably has to offer. Oh, and I've spun. Oops. But it's okay. We still have another 2 laps to go. I had a feeling I was going to have a spin eventually, but it's fine because we still have another 2 laps to get it done. If that was on the last lap, I would have just given up, but thankfully it wasn't. I knew there was going to be one moment where the bumps would cause me to go into a spin, but that's probably to be expected since we are technically driving on country roads anyway, in the middle of Yosemite National Park. And hopefully we can manage to fight back from our mistakes. And yes, I'm also pretty sure that Yosemite Sam was technically named after Yosemite National Park. I think that's right anyway. I think that's what the connection is between those two things. Although in the Looney Tunes world he is just known as Sam. But you get what I mean. I'm pretty sure all of us know who Yosemite Sam is. At least anyone who is watching this video probably knows. And I did already say that he is a Looney Tunes character. I didn't know the names of any of these mountains, but I do know for sure that this is definitely based around the country roads of Yosemite National Park. It also wouldn't surprise me if a lot like the other original and city courses that Polyphony comes up with, at least when it comes to courses like these, as I barge my way back into the lead. A lot of tracks like these, they typically are based on real life roads, from what I can see. But at this time, I would say we're doing okay. As I hit the inside wall for a moment there. And yep, now I have gone into the styrofoam blocks. Still, this has been a pretty hotly contested battle. A lot like what we had last time around at Le Mans, where, ironically, a test course like Le Mans, I did manage to simply outpace the Zonda, and as a result, I beat him on both occasions. Looks like this is probably going to be a similar case, because the player normally has the advantage over the AI around El Capitan. So, through the final hairpin and over the bridge. And there we go, that is 9 for 9 in the Dream Car Championship. I have scored 6 points in all but one race, and that was the... I have scored 6 points in all but one race. Well, 6 A-Spec points in all but one race. And that one race was beginner course. Excuse me. But anyway. So it looks as though pretty much all positions are resolved at this point. 90 points to me, 54 points to the Zonda, 33 points to the NSX, 26 to the Impreza, 22 to the FTO, and 9 points to the RSC. And now we have one race to go, and that is at Monaco. And now I am just 10 grand away from 2 million. So, let's save the replay first, since I have not saved a replay at El Capitan recently. Also, yes, this is a 3-parter for the Dream Car Championship because, well, I just really want to make sure that these videos get uploaded in a reasonable time. And also because generally I just want to hit 100 episodes by the time we're finished. Alright, one race to go. And that is at Monaco. Alright, final race of the Dream Car Championship. I think a clean sweep at this point is pretty much a foregone conclusion. So you know what? We're just going to do ourselves a favour and do it. which at this point is probably the best option we have. And also because I am making sure to do these championships one at a time in the current summer heat wave that we're experiencing across the UK and also across Europe. But anyway. Five seconds is the gap to the Pagani, and since we have 7 laps to get it done, I would imagine this is going to be pretty easy. A lot like pretty much most of the races up to this point of the championship, is what me thinks. So heading through the chicanes. And the gap is now just 2 seconds. Which to me is good, because it means that I can pretty much go out and dominate as soon as I take the lead. As we head past the Grand Hotel and now into Casino Square for the second time, heading down the hill into Mirabeau, and really trying to make sure that I get a clean pass on the Zonda. It's really what I am trying to do here. I think I am going to do just that as we head through the tunnel, and not quite. Yep. I probably knew that was going to happen at some point. I mean, he wasn't giving me the space exactly to get through in the tunnel. Plus we were pretty much side by side as we went through, so I think that was kind of what caused me to get loose, and then eventually I just got bumped from the side by the Zonda. He probably wasn't willing to hand over, but considering we were in the tunnel, he probably should have handed over the position, but it's fine. We still have another 5 laps to resume our battle, because inevitably I will clear the Zonda, because the player normally does have the advantage over the AI around Monaco. That's one thing I will say. As the gap is now under a second. And gonna make sure that I get a good exit now. I head through the tunnel in second. He's trying to block me, but he's not going to block me this time around and stop me from passing him. As we get through the chicane, the Zonda almost parked it there as he was going through the harbour chicane at the end of the tunnel. And the gap is now a second. I think that is steadily going to build up as we go further and further along. And now it looks like at this point as though victory is going to be ours. With the Zander basically being my only real competition. Although, if the Fair Lady Z was here, then, well, that competition element would definitely boost. But thankfully, that is not the case. And since I was only facing the Pagani here, I would honestly say that I got off pretty easy. From what I can see. You don't really have a lot of places to pass here at Monaco. Although thankfully, in the GT games however, Monaco is slightly wider than what it actually is in real life. Because I would assume that line there is probably where the actual Monaco walls really are in terms of their course layout for most of the way. As in, it's not exactly clear ways through just the genuine gantries of these corners and just trying to see if you can manage to squeeze your way through. You really have got to make sure that your car is handling good around here. And although qualifying normally does happen to be pretty much the main highlight of the Monaco Grand Prix, it's a rarity to actually see a good race happen around Monaco. Or with the current generation of F1 cars, which are basically wide boys, it's particularly very hard, if not impossible, to overtake around Monaco. Unless you're able to out-strategize your opponents. I do understand the prestige of Monaco, but at the same time, it's always been hard to overtake here. Regardless of how wide or narrow the cars are, overtaking has always been the Achilles heel here at Monaco. And oftentimes, there have definitely been plenty of attrition-filled races over the years. I would honestly say that at least prior to 2005. When I think the attrition element from that point on pretty much seemed to drop off. Although there have still been attrition-filled races since that point. Because, well, Monaco is just like that. It is arguably the tightest track F1 races that basically year over year. And it's also what I very much consider to be a combination of having, well, if we're being ironic, the best qualifying session of the year, but also one of the worst races of the year. That's normally how it ends up. That's normally how it ends up year over year. And whilst I can say I'm not exactly the biggest fan of Monaco, I can at least say that it's easier to work your way around this place in the GT games than it is in other games. Because you actually have the space to recover from whatever mistakes you might make. But yeah, the actual course is definitely narrower than what it is in the GT games, and 8 seconds is now the advantage I have as I get through the hairpin and portier, and now heading through the tunnel for the 7th and last time. I've just hit the 30-minute mark as of recording this, or I am beyond the 30-minute mark, I should say. And through the swimming pool complex, I see those diving boards. And now through La Rascasse for the last time. And it looks as though this is very much going to be another clean sweep, and there we go. Another championship is swept. And hey, the Toyota RSC finished in P4, and the FTO finishes P3. I don't know what that's going to do for the battle in the Super Touring class, but it's definitely going to bring it closer, as it was the Honda who finished last in that race. Let's see. Okay, so this is the rundown. A clean sweep for me over the Pagani Zonda, as we both sweep first and second places. And now let's go and look at the points as the game fades out, as it so often does. And we've now surpassed 2 million credits. And now it's time for the big money, as we get 200,000 credits. We're now up to 2.2 million credits overall. Now let's look at our results. So, another clean sweep to me, as I ultimately had the best tyre choices for all 10 races. Triple digit figures on the points for me. Then we had the Pagani Zonda in second with 60. Then the Honda NSXR prototype finished third with 34 points. And in the battle for the Super Touring class, the FTO gets a podium right at the end, but it was too little too late for him to stop the Impreza. And then at the back with 12 points, after managing to hold his ground pretty well, it was the Toyota RSC, who managed to avoid coming last in every race by scoring 12 points. So 100, 60, 34, 28, 26, and 12 are your final point scores for the Dream Car Championship, as it was the Subaru Impreza who won the Super Touring class battle over the FTO. And I do have a replay saved, just had to check. And now let's go and look at our prize car. Alright, what are we gonna get today as our prize car from winning Championship 2 of the Extreme Series? We get... Hey! It's the LM version of the Nissan GTR concept. I think this thing is actually really cool. And of course, if there were more events in this game, then I probably would consider using it, but in all honesty, I just have it here for show. So yeah, there is that. Okay. Right before the saxophone sets in again, as the drum roll also set in, that was Dream Car Championship. And as I would have guessed with my strategy choices, the clean sweep. So that's now 2 championships down in the extreme events, and for the summer stretch we have just 1 to go. The Polyphony Digital Cup. So let's go and do that now. I did also reset the system following my previous defeat at Le Mans. But anyway. I wonder how this thing looks. Does it look dirty? Or does it not? Nah, I don't think it looks too dirty. It's fine. Although then again, we didn't do an endurance race or anything. I just wanted to check and see what that was. So we're now 55.5% complete with the game, and we're up to less than 24,500 points on the board. So my win ratio moves up again slightly, as we're closing in on 3,000 miles driven. And I am now gonna look for my Nissan, wherever it is. There it is. So here it is, the Nissan GTR Concept LM race car. Ironically, another car that originally appeared in GT Concept. And this thing has a V6. Well, it's pretty cool to know these things when you get the chance. But anyway, there we go. 3 of 4 championships are down in the summer stretch, and next time we will be getting started with the Polyphony Digital Cup, coming in the next episode of GT4.